I want to go right to Ambassador John Bolton on this, our former UN ambassador. So much to talk about, but this first off, John, what do you make of the dust-up here? From what you've heard, and again, these are all sourceless, nameless individuals being quoted here about this Jared Kushner role, talking to the Russians. But given the precedent involved where other presidents have done the same, very different examples, I understand. But what's your knee-jerk reaction here?
Well, I honestly don't see anything of substance here at all. I think people have gotten now in the past week used to using the word back channel like it's a real kind of official term. Next, they'll start talking about tradecraft and things like that. Look, it's a word that covers a multitude of sins. You were just talking about Henry Kissinger cutting out the State Department. That's not a back channel. That's a bureaucratic turf fight. I think it's entirely plausible that the Russians, in the person of Sergei Kislyak, their ambassador in Washington, first raised this possibility. The Russians have had excellent ways of direct communication with the White House in the past, and they have all been mistakes from the American point of view, in my opinion. If you go back to the Kennedy example, where the president's brother, Robert F. Kennedy, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, was talking to some munchkin at the Soviet embassy. If you were KGB and you wanted an insight into Jack Kennedy's mind, other than sitting in the Oval Office yourself, talking directly to his brother was a gift from God. If you want a back channel, the back channel ought to be a munchkin in the U.S. Embassy in Moscow talking to Nikita Khrushchev's son or brother, something like that. So if the Russians asked for it,
there was a back channel to avoid a war, or try to work on the, a switch of letters and all that to avoid a war, but you're quite right. Go ahead.
Actually, there was a Secretary of State who could have done that too. But my point is the Russians were gathering incredibly sensitive intelligence watching Robert Kennedy's face. I wish we were getting the same in Moscow. So I think Mike Flynn, if he was in the room when Kislyak suggested that, should have said no right there. Now, on this business, was Jared Kushner or anybody in the transition wrong to be talking to the Russians? Absolutely not. Or the British, or the French, or the Chinese, or the X, or the Y, or the Z. That's what transitions do. They're trying to get ready to take office and be up to speed. Every embassy in Washington during that transition period is getting cables from their foreign ministries at home saying, what's the new administration going to do? It's perfectly natural. People in Washington need to get a life about this.
Let me ask you a little bit about the president's wrapped up his foreign trip, and the French President Macron is taking a bow for that infamous handshake in which he bragged about why he held on tight. And to make a statement, he said, now I'm thinking to myself, all right, he's 39, the president's 70. He is bragging about making a statement, squeezing a 70-year-old's hand. I had to just move on and think, all right, what was he saying? That he wouldn't take a bluster from the president? What did you think of that?
Right. Well, he said publicly it was to show no compromise with Trump. And then later, it was reported that in the kind of public gatherings where they're all standing around waiting to have their picture taken, he spoke only French to Trump. But he spoke English to Theresa May of Great Britain. That's another way of showing the Americans we don't back down. Now, let me ask you,
prove it? I mean, do you base your views of how you'll take on someone diplomatically based on their handshake?
I think the question that both these things raise is, who is the child in those encounters? Who is the child?
Exactly.
And it's not Donald Trump, that's for sure.
All right, but yet we've seen antics like this. We've seen the snickering while he was talking about NATO members paying up. I understand, I think you and I have chatted about this, that at least 3 of his predecessors of different parties have tried to get NATO members to cough up a little more, but they've done so behind the scenes, hoping that that was the way to go, and I guess these members ignored us. So the president opted to use a public venue like this to do it. What did you think of that?
I think it was entirely appropriate. I've been part of several administrations' efforts to get the allies to do more of their fair share. It was done very successfully in the George H.W. Bush administration to pay for the first Persian Gulf War. It was called the Tin Cup exercise, and we basically came out of it on net exactly even. There was nothing covert about it. It was well known we were doing it. And I think Trump has looked at the failures that you just mentioned and said, well, doing it behind the scenes hasn't worked. These people need to live up to their own commitment. And relieve the American taxpayer of implicitly subsidizing, let's say, the German welfare system. And if the Allies don't like it, if they don't have Barack Obama, you know, life is hard. In America, we call it democracy.
Yeah, for the life of me, the handshake thing, I cannot imagine basing policy on a handshake, but...
Childish.
Childish.
Absolutely childish.
All right.